Alright, hello to the viewers. So today I just wanted to kind of go over some things that you should always know and look for when buying a used vehicle, particularly if it's a private owned vehicle, meaning you just see it on the side of the road, like you're driving down a road like this, and then all of a sudden you look and there's a truck or a car for sale. Now this video is going to be kind of universal to just about any vehicle, be it a car, SUV, minivan, truck, anything. Heavy duty truck, light duty truck like this one. Most of these things are going to be just about all universal. So I'm just going to go from one thing to the next, I guess. So starting off with one of the most basic things, and this is all stuff that anybody can look at. This is stuff that absolutely anybody, even if you've never done any type of mechanics on a car, this is stuff that anybody can do. So one of the first things you should check, regardless of if this is at a dealership or if the car is brand new or old, is the airbox. This is your airbox, and pretty much right inside here is the air filter. Now when you take this bad boy out, you can see how dirty or clean it is. And you can see on mine it's kind of, it's old, it's used. It needs to be replaced fairly soon, which I'm going to. It's just I've been putting a lot of our time and effort into this truck, so I haven't had time. But make sure these things are fairly clean. They're not totally destroyed. I've had one that was from one end all the way to the other, which is the entire middle was gone from mice and all that stuff. It looked like a war zone down there, which this right there is where the air comes in, and then it gets sucked in through there into the engine. So that's just one quick thing to check. And I'm just using this truck right now as a reference, just to kind of show what I'm talking about. It's easier than just telling you different things. Another thing you should always check is your fluids, all your fluids. So like for instance, this is radiator coolant, and I had a problem with this. I can't get radiator coolant to stay in. I've had to patch a couple of little minor holes, but you can, I don't know if you guys can see it or not in there. Yeah, you can kind of see the line right there. Now you gotta make sure it has coolant in it. Windshield wiper fluid's not as important, but you can kind of see the blue windshield wiper fluid in there. You want to make sure that your windshield wipers spray and work good. Right there, right there is your transmission fluid. You want to check that. Make sure. Now, depending on the type of fluid that's being put in or type of manufacturer, like it varies from different car companies like Chevy, GMC, which are both the same company pretty much. They're owned by the same company, but their colors of driving fluids change throughout different cars. So like this one, I believe is a bluish, not blue, a reddish brown color, and it looks perfect. It's just gonna be kind of hard to show you with just one hand. Gonna pause this video really quick. Sorry about that pause. We had some cars going by. The one time I'm on this abandoned road, the cars are going by. The one time I'm trying to film. So the other important fluids to check are going to be your oil. Make sure it's a nice nice brownish color. Don't, if it's like dark or milky or anything like that, you're not going to want to buy this vehicle, because it's not a good idea. Now I'm going to try and show you. It's just kind of a pain to do this and hold the camera. You can kind of see the brownish color on there. It's a nice color. This thing's probably been changed every 8,000 miles or so, but I'm still going to do an oil change in the next couple thousand once I have more time before the winter. So another thing you want to check is power steering. Make sure that has enough fluid in it, unless it's electronic power steering, or it's just a very old vehicle with no power steering. Make sure you check your brake fluid. That's another big thing you want to make sure of, which just has plenty. I filled it. Want to make sure that's good. Your battery, that's another big thing before you buy a used vehicle. Make sure the battery is good. I mean, this one here, obviously it says this camera 5-year performance. This battery is probably more of a 10-year performance because this battery is ancient. It is going to get replaced eventually, but for the time being, in the end of summer, it's all right. Another thing you want to check, when the engine is cold, before you buy a vehicle, make sure, ask them if the engine's been running or not, because you're going to want to check this one right here. This is the big one for coolant. I mean, you can check right there. You can check that coolant reservoir, but if you check in here and there's no coolant or fluid in here at all, then there's usually a problem somewhere in the lines, somewhere, maybe the radiator itself, which can be very costly. Another thing you want to check, start the engine, make sure this fan right don't know if you're going to be able to see the fan right there. That's your fan. Make sure that's spinning and keeping the engine cool when you're idling. That's another big thing. Another thing, and just in general, which you might not even think about, your lights. Make sure your highs, your lows. If it has daytime running lights, make sure those work. Make sure your blinkers work. If it has fog lights, which this one had the option, you can see the cutouts there and there. Make sure those both work. Alright, so I think that's about it for the engine portion. Make sure, another thing, make sure your belts look good. They're not frayed or anything like that. Make sure your belts are all seemingly intact. Make sure your wiring all seems like it's intact. Another thing you might want to check is your right here with your fuses. Make sure not like there's not water condensation or mud or anything in there. Make sure they all look fairly safe and like it's not going to blow up or anything, which it's not going to, but that's just another little thing to check. So another few things that are good to check are your tires. Like this one, make sure it has plenty of tread, which this one's all the way around have plenty of tread for these will pass inspection. It's good. These tires are going to be good for a while. Another thing you want to check are your lug nuts. Make sure all 5 or 4 or 6, depending on your vehicle that you're looking at, are there. This does have the hubcaps that go over lug nuts. I just took this one off because I was doing the front brakes. That's another thing you want to check. I don't know if you can see it too well. Trying to get the camera to focus. That's your rotor right there. I know it's kind of blurry, but check that. Make sure your brakes are good. So when you test drive the vehicle, don't be afraid to hit the brakes real good a few different times to make sure the brakes are good and there's no grinding. And by the way, another little piece of advice, whatever you do, if you're buying a vehicle and you tell the person you're buying it, you want to look at this stuff. Tell them, I don't care who you are. If you're looking at a vehicle, no matter who you are, if you're, if it's going to be your first vehicle, you're a 16-year-old kid, or if you're a 48-year-old person, adult, and the guy tells you, no, I don't want you looking at this vehicle, or no, I don't want you looking at the air box or the fluids, or if he's trying to insist, oh, they're all fine, you don't need to look at it, odds are he's hiding something. I wouldn't buy that vehicle. Even if the thing rides and runs good, odds are if he's telling you, no, you can't look at something, then I wouldn't deal with that person because there's probably a problem with the vehicle 9 times out of 10. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes they're just very picky. I don't know, but 9 times I would just stay away from it. But you want to also kind of be sure if it has these stickers on here like this, all these different stickers, see what they look like and see how they look, and see if you can match the sticker to the engine bay and stuff. Like for instance, like if this has a 4-liter V6, you can kind of like look at the way this is all set up and kind of match it to that. Or if it's not all engines are going to have this, not all engine bays, and some of them certainly are going to be too old and the stickers just might not be there. That's just another simple thing to look at. Another thing you want to look at is depending on what kind of vehicle you're buying. If you're buying a truck, you want to look at the tailgate, make sure it opens, closes, latches, see if the bed is all right. Like this truck in particular, the bed, you can kind of see it, how it's slouched down a little bit to the left. This needs a new bed. I'm planning on doing that next summer, so I'm definitely getting that done. But if it has a tow hitch on there, make sure the tow hitches are good. If it has towing lights, make sure they're good. This one did have towing lights. I don't know if you can see that right there. It did have towing lights and they were cut. I'm guessing the guy had a problem. So one day in the future, depending on if I keep this truck more than a year, next summer we'll see where we are, and I'll see about getting the whole truck rewired for new lights. Other things you're going to want to check are underneath the truck. You're going to want to check, let me get down here, underneath, well, this goes for any vehicle actually, not just a truck, obviously. You're going to want to check this bad boy right here. This is the frame, and you're going to want to check the floor, which is like right up there. You're going to want to check the floor, the frame, the exhaust pipe, make sure they're all good, the differential if it has one, if it's a rear-wheel drive. You're going to want to check all that stuff. I did get kind of bit in the back here with this truck because the frame, I'm not going to show you because it's way up in the front, I'm way in the back, but probably a distance between like right here, probably like, so from this screw right there to about here has a big split and rot in the middle of the frame, but I've already gotten it taken care of and it's going to be fixed and welded, and pretty much it's still would pass inspection, but odds are if you see something like that, it's worth just staying away. Another thing you want to check are your rocker panels, especially if you're in a state like mine, like New York, where it's all just nothing but rust. You want to see how bad the sides are here and all this stuff here, all that stuff. You want to make sure there's no major holes or anything like that. That's just kind of like what to look for underneath the vehicle. Other things, there's going to be a multitude of other things, obviously. And if it's a unibody design, which means most cars and most newer SUVs, you're going to want to check the frame and everything on those as well. It's just not a steel frame like this one would be. Unibodies are a little bit different, but you're going to want to check those as well. So let me just get this pushed back in. And obviously when you're putting one of these back in, make sure it goes into those. You can see there's little latches there it has to go into. And then make sure once it's in, there it goes. Make sure you put these little latches. There's two on this one. Some of them have screws, some of them have latches, some of them have two, some of them have 3, 4, you know, it just depends. Make sure those are put back on. But now going to the inside of the vehicle. Oh wait, one other thing you're also going to want to check is your reverse lights, your brake lights. Make sure those all work as well, because you can get a ticket for that. And getting some free, you know, you can get a fine for that. For like a $5 bulb, you can get charged over $100 for a ticket, which nobody wants. Other things, now this is going to be kind of where it gets more of a trickier thing to look for when you're starting a car. Make sure, obviously, it starts right up like this. Starts right up. Make sure all the lights here go off. Now, obviously, I have a few lights on here. There's a seatbelt light to the, there's right here is seatbelt light. That right there is a gas cap light, because this has a different gas cap. It's not the stock one. So that's always going to be on. But ABS lights, because the back brakes need to be replaced. And the check engine light, I believe, has something to do with the, whatever you call it. I think it has something to do with the wheel speed sensor, I believe. But that's something for another day to figure out. And let me just close the hood really quick since we're standing here. So in this way, we can actually take this thing for a little bit of a drive. Bear with me. This is caught there. Close that. Alright. Now, like I said, this does have a check engine light and stuff, but what are you going to do? I'm going to get it fixed eventually, but make sure those aren't on. If they are on, figure out the real reason why, and if there's some major thing wrong, obviously you don't want it. Make sure when you open these doors that these lights come on. Obviously, these ones do not when you open the driver's side door, but when you open, then all of a sudden the lights come on. I blew a fuse with this one. I sprayed some WD-40 in the door hinges because they were squeaking, and it blew a fuse. That's on me. That's my bad. Another thing you want to check, this is not the stock radio. I put this one in. It has 6 CDs. Make sure that those all work. Make sure it obviously works. The speakers and everything. CDs, make sure they all work. Make sure your charger here works. Make sure that you can put the thing in the 4-wheel drive, which just, if it has that stuff, I mean, this is options if you have this. So if it does have 4-wheel drive, 4 high, 4 low, make sure it goes into there and make sure it works. Find like a little hill with some grass on it and give it a lot of gas. Well, not a lot of gas, but enough to get the back wheels start spinning. Always put your truck in neutral, or car or vehicle, whatever it is. If it has 4-wheel drive, I always recommend putting it in neutral, then shifting into 4 low or 4 high. So like I said, on a hill, you can give it some gas, make sure the back wheels are spinning, put it in neutral, put it in 4 low or 4 high, or both, at 2 different times, obviously, and then try giving it gas and see if it grips in the front or not. Make sure your blowers all work, make sure your they work, which they do. Make sure your AC works, and especially, I know that the AC is a big thing for people, but make sure your heater works. You would rather drive with the windows down in the summertime to keep cool, rather than drive in the middle of the winter with no heat and be freezing. Let me tell you, that's just a big thing. Another couple of small things on the inside. See if the horn works. Obviously, that works. Make sure your mirrors are good. If this will focus, all your mirrors are good. Make sure you can see. with all that. And then obviously for the main thing, the other main things, your transmission, make sure your reverse works, which this does. We're backing up. Make sure it goes in neutral, which this one does. And then there's drive, and then some cars have first gear, second gear, you can put them in if it's not manual. If it's a manual, that's a different story. You're going to want to make sure the clutch works. You're going to want to make sure it goes in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, however many gears you have, and reverse. Now, if it's an automatic, it's a little bit harder to do. Obviously, you can't physically put it into those gears, so you're going to want to drive the vehicle, which we're about to do, just to show you that. Get my seatbelt on, safety first, just to show you that the gears do, in fact, work. And we are going to be going downhill, so it's not going to be scientific, but you can obviously see when you can see it shifts through the gears just fine. So that's just kind of my little video of things to look for. You can also, like I said, make sure your windshield wipers, I know there's the sun, let's try and make sure your windshield wiper spray works as so. And your windshield wipers are good, make sure those work, and make sure to hold gas. Obviously that's not a big thing, but that's about it for this video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you find this video useful, and have a good one, and hope you like and subscribe.